You're gonna get loaded, Mama. Your freedom ride. Let's get you out of here.
Hey, you guys, welcome back. This week I wanted to talk about Honey. Honey is this beautiful Palomino horse that you met a few months ago. She now lives with her new family. We were able to find her an adoptive home, so she's not currently here. The space that I'm in right now is with my wild burro, Katie, and so you'll probably see her pop in and out of the frame. She likes when I come and sit with her and share space, and so since I knew I was going to be filming this for you guys, I'm gonna share space with her while I do it. Now, Honey's story is really important because she represents thousands and thousands of horses all over the world, and what happens to those horses when they are no longer considered useful by humans. It's the dirty secret of the horse industry. It's the one that gets dismissed and swept under the rug, and it's worth sharing, and it's one of the reasons I have this platform. It's most of the animals I work with. It's what my passion is. So this week we're going to talk about it. Now, I remember when my friend sent me her photo. She was located in a kill pen in Texas, and she was listed online for sale with a ship date to slaughter. Some of you are going to run straight to the comments now and condemn us for rescuing this horse. You don't have to do that because I'm going to address it and educate right now and explain to those who don't know why I said that, why somebody might do that. So save yourself the trouble. I like to call this the booming business of kill pens. It is a very lucrative business and people make a heck of a lot of money doing it at the expense of equines, horses and donkeys. So basically, they make a lot of money flipping cheap horses that they buy at auctions. It's primarily horses that nobody wants, lame horses, old horses, horses with just horrific injuries that people don't want to pay for vet care, or they don't want to pay to euthanize them or do it themselves, and so they drop them off at auctions. Now, sometimes a real kill buyer might pick them up for just for dollars, for almost nothing. And then what they do is they can ship them to the border in a livestock trailer. They're gonna put as many horses as they can in the back of a livestock trailer, and they're going to take them to the border of Mexico, and then they sell them per pound. Whatever they weigh, they sell them per pound like you would meat. There are a lot of countries out there that eat horses and donkeys as delicacies, but they also salvage their body parts to make into byproducts for different things too. Now, so they might ship them to the border, or they might take them back to their facility, list them online. They'll take pictures of the horrific condition that they're in, and they will sell them for a lot more money than what they bought them for, with the hopes that a rescue or a private buyer with a bleeding heart, me, will buy them, so then they make a profit on them, right? And sometimes they buy the horse or donkey for $100, but they sell it for $1,000 online. And these animals are not being well taken care of generally when they're at their facility, and then they're exposed to all kinds of diseases, and usually they're in really bad shape to begin with. So you will see rescues step in, and you will see private buyers step in to say, I will take this animal, with the hopes that we're saving them from slaughter. Personally, I try not to buy from these sellers because it just permeates this vicious cycle that we have right now in the horse and donkey industry. They make a lot of money on these really sick animals, and then they use that money to go buy more really sick animals. But again, it just permeates this vicious cycle of abuse and neglect, and the animals are not being taken care of. Other times, I have a really hard time looking away, and I just feel like I need to do something for the animal. In the instances that I have gone ahead and rescued the animal, I can't say that I regret it, and you see those animals on my channel. I generally try to ignore those comments of people who are ready to string me up for purchasing those animals, but I will tell you that I never regret saving life. The summary here is, where do you rescue from? What's the best way to do it? I would say the best way to do it is to get the animals at these auctions where the kill buyers go. You're going to get them for a lot less money, which means you can usually save more animals depending on if you fundraise to go there and do that, which is what I've done in the past. I'll fundraise. It's what a lot of big rescues do. They fundraise as much as they can before the auction, and then they use that money to buy as many animals as they can. So the best place to do it is at an auction, in my opinion. This cuts out the kill buyer, and that animal is safe right away versus either going to these other places where they're not going to be rescued anyway or dying. Let's go back to Honey. Honey captured my friend's heart. She sent me her photo and her listing, and I told her not to purchase her. I thought, based on her level of starvation, that she was going to die anyway, and she was in Texas and we live in Colorado. Even if she didn't die in Texas, I didn't think that she would survive the transport to Colorado, which is about 14 hours without stops, and all of the mountain ranges that you have to drive through to get here. I still feel really bad about that. Even to this day, even saying it kind of makes me cringe a little bit, because she did live and she did thrive, and she does have a forever family now. She had stickers and burrs matted in her mane. Her tail was severely matted. She just kind of hung her head. Her head was really low and her eyes were just heartbreakingly sad. And it just makes you wonder, like, where this horse was kept and for how long she suffered in this condition. Thankfully, my friend purchased her anyway. And then she paid a family in Texas to foster her for about 6 weeks so that she could regain a little bit of strength before we taxed her with the transport to Colorado. She was looked at by a vet, but there was minimal intervention done at that time besides beginning the refeeding process. They roached her mane. That means they basically shaved it all the way down to her neck. For her tail, they had to cut chunks of that out as well just to get the burrs out. So she came looking pretty rough without the level of starvation, but also her hair got kind of crazy. But after 6 weeks, she really wasn't making as much progress as we thought she should be. So we went ahead and transported her home to my friend's ranch here in Colorado, and she lives about 20 minutes from where my farm is. We finally got a good look at her. This is Honey when she arrived. You can see this is a case of severe starvation and neglect, but at this point she had regained a twinkle in her eye. She was very wary of humans all the same. She spent the next month at my friend's ranch being pampered and fed. She was groomed daily and her coat was dull and coming out in clumps. We were actually kind of worried that she would be bald. We quickly identified several other issues that were missed in Texas. And soon she arrived at my place. I recently had 4 horses leave my property that had boarded with me over the winter. And so I had a large pasture that was sitting empty. I offered to bring Honey here to continue the refeeding and the rehab process and hopefully to find her a family. Over the next 6 weeks, Honey continued her refeeding program and worked her way up to 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as well as having access to pasture and high quality hay on demand. She had a lovely companion in my own rescue gelding, Boone, and he will eventually have his own episode, but they were really fast friends. I worked on handling her each day, but she was highly suspicious and ran away most times, especially if I had a halter. She would quickly fall into a zoned out trot and move in circles around me, almost like she was being lunged, but the only thing that I held in my hand was a halter. Some days I could get her out of it by matching steps and then retreating. She would follow me and then allow me to halter her finally, but other days I just had to give up. She refused. As far as being able to treat her with fly spray and apply ointment to a scraped up body, it was time consuming and slow as well. Within a few days, she would allow me to work on her as long as she was at liberty. That means that I didn't have her tied up or haltered. She had the choice to leave whenever she was ready to. I would wait and she would return. She specifically had the most difficulty with me touching anywhere on her head, and if I had a halter, forget about it. She would flinch when I approached her face, her eyes would get wide and scared, and her whole body would tense. Gentle touches and soft words were important for her, as well as consistency with me. She had a very, very hard time trusting me. The farrier came to see her within days of arriving at my farm.
And they're up today. She's about to see a farrier. So I'm gonna try to halter her, brushing around her poor bones. This is all spine, you guys. So sad. So, building some trust right now so I can get my rope around her neck. We'll see.
I went out to see her early that day so that I would have time to catch her and prayed that she would allow herself to even be haltered. I stood with her for a long time and explained that we were going to get her feet trimmed that day, and I understood if it made her nervous. I promised her we would be patient and kind. To my great surprise, she stood beautifully and calmly while he worked on her feet, but she flinched each time he approached her head. I remember him shaking his head sadly and saying that it looked like she was waiting to be beat. She trembled and her eyes were wide, and even though she was terrified, she never put up a fuss while he trimmed her feet. We gave her a lot of breaks and lots of gentle touches and praise. While working with Honey after she arrived, it was obvious that she was well trained at some point. She responded to the slightest of cues when I asked her to do something, and after I could finally catch her, she would wait patiently for me to tell her what I wanted her to do next. She knows how to work with people well, it's just that she doesn't trust them anymore. And it's likely that she never had a choice and that she was severely abused at some point in her life, aside from the neglected condition that we found her in, which that's abuse, right? Next, I transported her to the vet with some other older horses to find out a more specific age and to have her assessed for any other issues that an adoptive family would want to know about. She was steadily gaining weight, but it was a slow and tedious process. The vet said that she was almost 30 years old and she had almost no teeth in her mouth due to lack of oral care in her life. With some sedation, we had her teeth floated and a general workup done. Floating teeth means that the vet files their teeth down so that they can properly grind their food. Horses' teeth, as they become older, become really sharp, and they can't grind their food well, and they need to be able to grind their food to get nutrients from what they're eating. Essentially, they can be eating all day, and the food will pass right through them with no benefit if their teeth are not in good shape. The vet didn't find much else wrong. It was simply a severe neglect and starvation situation. Like many other senior horses, she had outlived being useful for humans, and she found a sad fate awaiting her when she was purchased in an auction. Her last owner's opportunity to earn a buck on her, and she was then purchased by a kill buyer. Over the next month or so, I stayed consistent with her nutrient-dense meals and handling her. Because she has very few teeth, she is at a high risk for choking and cannot properly grind long, stemmy types of grass or hay. This is why she gets an alfalfa mash with added supplementation 3 times a day. After having her teeth floated, which means filed down so she can grind her food, I noticed her weight gain increased significantly, which we expected. She became very opinionated over time, as she became comfortable with me, pawing the fence and tossing her feed pan around when she thought she should have more to eat. She enjoyed foraging in our larger pasture out back with her buddy Boone, and she would come when called to have her special mash meals. A family was interested in adopting her as a companion for their other rescue horse, who they had brought home earlier in the year. His name is Henry, and I had the great honor of rescuing him for his family. He will have his own episode one day as well. I knew the family and the horse, and I thought it would be a great fit. They came to meet her, and they quickly fell in love, of course. Honey also took to them quickly, which is telling. Soon, it would be time for her to move home with them. With a buyback contract in hand, she was adopted. A buyback contract means that we get first option to buy the horse back before the adopters sell the horse anywhere else if they are unable to keep them. This helps us keep tabs on where the horses go and helps us keep them safe if they are unable to remain with their adoptive families for any reason. We set a date. The morning she was leaving, I went out to catch her, and it was the easiest process. Now, for many days leading up to her departure, while grooming and feeding her, I would explain to her that she was going to go home soon. I told her about her new family, her new horse friend Henry, and the beautiful property she would be living at, complete with grass pasture and scenic ponds. She knew today was a big day and that she was going home after all this time. My kids and husband wanted to be part of her delivery, so we loaded up early one morning and headed to her new home. She only lives 7 minutes from my farm. Honey has a young family with 3 kids to care for her as a pasture princess for the rest of her days. With her shimmery gold coat and her big soft brown eyes and her gentle nature, this grandma horse arrived at her forever home. She calmly walked right off the trailer and stood quietly waiting for whatever was going to come next. She knew she was safe, and I'd been reminding her for days leading up to this that she would be safe forever. Honey and Henry, her rescue buddy, met over the fence, and she had to make a statement, of course, with a sassy squeal and a stomp. I would expect nothing less from her. We put on her fly mask and turned her loose to get acquainted with Henry over the fence line. Final questions were answered, goodbyes were said, and with a full heart, I drove away. I get regular updates on Honey. She's doing great. Her and Henry were fast friends, and she has continued to gain weight and improve her health. Her family loves her, and the kiddos enjoy learning about how to continue helping her be healthier. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this video that Honey represents so many senior horses in this industry. When horses become too old to do their jobs for humans, oftentimes they are sold in auctions. It's one last way that people can make money off of them. Old horses usually do not find happy endings, especially not at an auction in this way, unless a rescuer sees them and steps in. So often, these old horses, who have worked their whole lives for people, find themselves in the back of a livestock trailer headed for slaughter. I share Honey's story to show viewers that there is another way. Honey was not chronically ill or sick to be in the condition she was in. She was intentionally starved, abused, and severely neglected. Due to no fault of her own, humans failed her. She is well-trained and quiet, now healthy and thriving. With patience, nutrition, and a little vet care, she is the perfect family companion. If you know of an older horse that needs a home or sanctuary, please first contact rescues. Be cautious of how you advertise on social media, because there are really dishonest people out there that will troll social media pages, and they tell you what you want to hear, and they buy your cheap older horse, but that older horse ends up in really ugly places sometimes when that happens. They flip them on websites and you don't know where they end up, or they are shipped to slaughter more often than not. Feel free to email me, comment below if you ever have any questions or if you ever need help placing an animal, because like I said, this is not what I do for work. This is just what I do because I love them and I want to help them find soft and safe landings. I'll always do my best to help. Happy trails, Honey, and thank you for letting us be part of your journey. Here's my filming buddy. She was too shy to come into the camera frame, but my wild burro, Katie, enjoying some grass. But she only gets as a special treat. But because I wanted to share space with her, I thought, yeah, what the heck? Come on out here. Love that girl. See you guys.